Today we visit the Polish Institute of Culture and Research near Detroit, and I am speaking with its director, John Radzilowski. The reason why we are here is actually very far away from here. It's in Minnesota, little village of Wilno, which is named after the capital of Lithuania, but it was built by Poles. John is the leading researcher of the story of this village. So how come the village was named Wilno?
Well, it was created by a company, a Polish company that was trying to get Polish people to leave the city, in particular Chicago, to go back to the countryside because they felt the city was dirty and it was corrupting. And so they wanted to create a farming settlement for Polish people coming to the United States. And so they chose the name Wilno. They worked with the railroad company. They chose the name Wilno because it was a famous city in Poland. There were already many places named Warsaw. There were some places named Kraków and Poznań. And so after those, what is the most famous city the Polish people would know? Wilno or Vilnius would be the name. And so they chose that. But they also then chose one of the, when you go to Vilno, you'll see one of the street names is named Kovno.
Yes, the main street actually.
Yeah. There's only two streets. It's a very, very, very small town. So they were paying homage to that part of history.
Yeah, but as I understand, the settlers were not actually Poles from Vilnius region or from Eastern
Correct.
Poland. So how comes, why was this chosen, these two names?
It was something that was sort of people had known about. It sounded Polish. And it would attract a lot of the people who came were from Western Poland. They were from the Poznań region in particular, but also some from Galicia, from the areas around Kraków. But this was a recognizable Polish name. It was marketing. It was an early idea of marketing where you would attract people to you by using that name. And so Lithuania was for many of the people was known to them through Mickiewicz, through the Pan Tadeusz, the opening lines of Pan Tadeusz, Lithuania, thou art like health to me. So they would have known that, and those names would be familiar to them. So it was just really something to attract Polish people, but it didn't have any kind of direct connection to the actual place in Lithuania.
This institute, though, or the area where this institute stands, has such a connection because this used to be a seminary for Polish priests in America, but at the same time, many Lithuanian priests were also educated here, and I actually have met one such priest, Mr. Mikalajūnas, in Utica, New York, who worked in Lithuania and Polish parishes. So what is the history behind that, behind those many Lithuanian priests who went to this school?
Well, this was established in 1885 in Detroit and then moved to our present site here at Orchard Lake in 1909. Founded by Father Joseph Dąbrowski, who was really a pioneer of education, and he wanted to create a place for, obviously, to train Polish priests for the new immigrants coming through American dioceses. But Dąbrowski was a very broad-minded person. He was very interested in other languages. He surely knew quite a few Lithuanians from his time in Poland, as well as Slovaks and Czechs and other people that he met. So he named the seminary St. Cyril and Methodius. Obviously, his main focus was going to be the Poles, but he also wanted to include all the other groups that made up or associated with the old Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So he really saw, and at that time when he came, and he was a veteran of the January insurrection of 1863 against Russia. And so obviously that occurred also in Lithuanian lands. There was also a rebellion against Russia at the same time. And so he felt an obvious kinship toward Lithuanians. And so the Lithuanians were also coming at that time to America in large numbers. They had the same problem. There were many immigrants. They had not enough priests to serve them. For the Catholic parishes. And so he saw that the things that he was creating for Polish immigrants could also work for Lithuanians. And so he had Lithuanian professors here. They taught Lithuanian language. They had Student Association of St. Casimir was here as well, for Lithuanian students. They had all instructional materials, and so the students would take certain classes, for example, in English, everyone had to learn English as well. In addition to learning very good Polish or very good Lithuanian, you also had to learn good English because you had to serve in America. And also, of course, you had to learn good theology, you had to have your Latin, but he also wanted his graduates to be educated in sciences, in geography and history. And so they would take American history, for example. So the students would often take classes together. They would have common eating together. They would live together, but then they would have these separate language classes as well.
And so how did the history went on from there? At some point, Lithuanians left the seminary, yes,
Yeah.
and in general, many Lithuanians left the joint parishes with Poles. Yeah. So how did the history went from there?
Well, obviously, often as a result of the conflicts in Europe, as Lithuania, after World War I, of course, both Lithuania and Poland regained independence. There's a battle over who will control Wilno or Vilnius. And of course, in 1922, there's the coup d'etat, or whatever we call it, where Polish troops came in and take over, and it's annexed to Poland, because that was, of course, Józef Pilsudski's birthplace. And so there's a very bitter falling out between Poles and Lithuanians in Europe, but then that also comes to reflect in the United States. And so at some point, the Lithuanian students who were here and the people who were teaching Lithuanian left and went other places. That's part of the history we don't know much about. It does not seem to be, when they left, it didn't seem to be, from everything I've been able to learn, that it was a fight. They just decided that it was better, and that in future Lithuanian students wouldn't want to come to a largely Polish campus. And so they decided to go elsewhere. But there were still, the gentleman you met, for example, there were still, particularly after the Second World War, there were still some Lithuanians who came, and of course many of them spoke Polish as a second language, and so they would be at home here. But there were also, as I said, there were people from Slovakia who was here, Czech, Ukrainians, and so this was still a place where it wasn't always 100% Polish, but over time, as those groups, they each began to develop their own parishes and their own institutions, they went their separate ways.
And so the history of Wilno, Minnesota, how did it went from there? Are there still Poles or Polish-speaking people there?
There aren't any. Well, there up until I think there was a couple Polish-speaking people that lived there when I was doing my research on it, but they were quite elderly and they've since passed away. But mostly it's the fourth, sometimes fifth generation of people who are there, but they retain a strong Polish heritage. There's a very beautiful church there, St. John Cantius.
They were renovating it at the time we went there in 2021.
And it's a very, very unique architecture. It was one of the most beautiful churches in that area. And at one time there was a school there. They still have an education center where the school used to be. And so they still retain a sense of being Polish. They're very proud of that. They have a festival every year. It's in August of every year. And so then people come. Some of the descendants have moved away, and so then some of the descendants come back, and they have different. Sometimes they have Polish dancers there from other places, or they have Polish food and music. So they try to keep that heritage there, and it's true of a lot of places that are third and fourth generation. The language is gone, but there's still a strong sense of attachment to their history and to their culture.
Quite similar to many Lithuanian places, although for Lithuanians there are almost no Lithuanian villages in America. There are usually they dissipated and assimilated in larger cities where it's much harder to keep your identity. So as in Global Through Lithuania, we visit many Lithuanian sites. Many of them we have mapped on our map.throughlithuania.com map of Lithuanian heritage sites in America, including Lithuanian churches and cemeteries and museums and archives as well. And you have an archive here. So what are your plans for the Polish archive here?
Well, we are renovating new spaces we have art collection, we have historical artifacts, and we also have paper archives, as well as a library collection. So we are renovating spaces to create a research center here for history, genealogy, anyone who's interested in the history of particularly the Catholic element of immigration to this region and to the United States from Eastern Europe. We have very strong collections about that. We have strong collections about Polish veterans of the Second World War and assistance to Poland, and of course the future Pope, John Paul II, St. John Paul II visited here twice. So we also have extensive archives related to his life and his papacy. And so our goal is to make that available to researchers and to the public who wants to learn more about their history.
I'm glad to see a new memorial is actually built here for a Polish general, which was built by the Polish Institute of Historical Memory, yes?
National Remembrance, correct.
Of National Remembrance, yeah. And Lithuania lacks such an institution, unfortunately, so we often lose even old memorials for famous Lithuanians abroad, so hopefully we will have such an organization established in Lithuania once as well. So I have been very glad to visit this place and see that it continues on and helps to keep the history alive. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.